Hello, and thanks for coming along to And We Have an Office Dog, the digital agency podcast where we talk to agency owner-directors and learn more about what makes them tick. From the things that make them similar to the things they'd rather have known sooner, where they've had success and where they've learned some hard lessons. All will be revealed with your host, Chris Simmons, the agency coach, and he'll be talking to a different awesome agency person in each episode, asking them 4 questions and seeing where the conversation takes us over the next 25 minutes. Okay, so let us begin. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, voiceover guy. And on the podcast today, we've got Charli from Proof Content. Hi, Charli.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
And thank you very much for coming along. So first and foremost, every single podcast, everyone who's a guest gets to give us a plug about what they do and why they're so good, just in case a customer's listening or potential member of staff in the future is listening. So go ahead. What does Proof Content do?
Proof Content, well, as we say, we do content. So we're a content strategy and copywriting agency. There's a few of us in-house, just a small team. Then we have a network of 150 freelance writers and an AI bot. Yeah,
150.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's a logistical nightmare, I bet.
It is, but it means we can create content in lots of different industries, and it also means we can do really big website rewrite projects. So a couple of months ago, we did 2,000 pages in a month. So yeah.
Okay, I mean, just for those of you who are listening to this, obviously I'm recording this. I can see Charli right now. She doesn't have any grey hair, so she's clearly got the systems and processes just right.
Or I'm really good at dyeing it.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't have assumed. So how long have you been running the agency?
About 9 years.
Right, so crikey, 9 years, 150 freelancers, and an AI bot you mentioned. So what's the
AI bot?
What is the AI bot just keeping everyone going, like virtual pats on the back, or is it a writer as well?
It's a writer and a researcher as well. So it's based on GPT-3, which is the OpenAI technology. And we sort of, I guess, train it for each client. We haven't been able to make it work as well as a writer yet. But I think it's good. It's good. It does help us create better content, I think. And that's the main thing.
I've had to play with that tech a few times just to see how good it is, and I think it's really good. It gives, because if you want it to do the legwork of researching stuff and then someone else rewrites it, that's certainly great. I think over time, like you say, it will learn the right way of doing things. But yeah, amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So aside from creating the next generation of robots that's going to kill us all, what do you think's been one of the greatest successes over the last 9 years of running the agency?
You know, I was thinking about this, and I actually think it might be surviving the pandemic.
Yep, I think in both physical and metaphorical terms, you mean that as well. So what do you think? What makes that the biggest of successes? Is it just simply being around still, or is it something else there?
So 80% of our clients were in travel in March 2020. So
gasp.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the fact that we've, all pulled together so well to kind of just completely change the way we work. And now we work with, we still do some travel stuff. We do e-commerce and we do sales and energy, tech and energy content as well. So just being able to everyone pulling together to get us to this place now where we're back up to where we were before. We're growing ridiculously this year, and it just feels like finally we're back on track.
Well, congratulations on survival, especially given the sector that you had lots of work in. I think it was a bit of a strange time a few years ago, wasn't it, when overnight everything changed. It wasn't like when something's coming and everyone gets a bit of a build up, a bit like, so not to bring Brexit into this as a conversation where we have any political talk, but Brexit, everyone kind of, once the vote had happened, everyone knew something was going to happen and people could work towards it or build up around it or do something to it. The actual direction it was traveling is out of everyone's hands, but at least we knew it was coming over a longish span of time. Whereas the pandemic was a week, I think, between it's getting bad and we're all now locked in our homes, and also airports are shut.
Yeah.
So in order to batten down the hatches, that's one task. But I guess with clients in an industry that was suffering, I suppose that was really tough for you, because you've got to have empathy at the same time as keeping your business safe.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, and you've got to watch, the reason 80% of our clients were in travel is just because my networks are really good in travel. And, I kind of knew that we should diversify a bit, but what are you going to do if people keep asking you to do work for them?
I'm not going to say no.
Exactly. So, yeah. And I think you just see all of these friends and business owners and you think, well, at least an agency can kind of pivot, but, a holiday company, there's nothing they can do.
Yeah, it's hard going. I guess the core thing is you managed to get through it and you're now growing again, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I suppose the with the ability of an agency to pivot relatively quickly, and also given that you have a lot of freelancers in, they can pivot their briefs quite quickly, which is quite good. And obviously it takes a minute to diversify technically, because you change your mind, and then it's a case of doing the sales and everything afterwards. So that's good. So 80% were travel. Now is the split a little bit more even, or is there a bigger gap?
Yeah, I'd say we're now only about 5% travel, just because it's taking a little while to come back. And there's also, there's been so many people on furlough that are kind of being put to work now. So I think travel will just take a little while to get back to us. But yeah, we're probably about 40% e-commerce, and then kind of, I'd say 55% is kind of tech and energy.
All right, awesome. Energy's having a bit of a boom at the minute as well.
It is. Yeah.
It really is.
And also a bit of a rubbish time as well, so we'll see.
Yeah. So if you could go back roughly-ish 9 years, you've turned your GPT-3 robot into a time machine. You've gone back in time 9 years, and you can give yourself one piece of advice. What would it be?
I think it would be ask for help more. So don't try. I think when I first started my business, it took me ages to realize that you don't need to know how to do everything just because you're the business owner. You need to know how to do all the content stuff, but you don't need to know how to run a business. It's everybody's first time running a business,
Yeah.
And I think definitely in the last 2 years that's really picked up. So I've got a mentor. We work with some consultants. I'm getting an NED. It's just, lots and lots of people, amazing people around me who've given me really useful advice.
It's like you say, everyone's first time is their first time, and if you the only way that you could go into running a business is if you had done business studies of some sort and got all your qualifications in how businesses work, only to find that on day one it's not quite the same as that. And you also don't know how to do anything else apart from run businesses. So it's hard though, isn't it, that mindset change when you realize actually I don't have to be stressing out over this thing that isn't my skill set. There is someone who I can either hire or buy that can do that. And I think that's quite a mind shift, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And I think it's so easy to feel like you need to have all the answers, but it's so easy to find people who know the answers and can help you.
Yeah, and you say you've got a mentor. I think mentoring is hugely valuable, because that's just that helps equip your mind for other decision making later, and then having lots and lots of other supporting roles, as NED and things like that. And NED is great for building accountability. Realistically, not to disparage any NEDs, it's a very good role, but their job is to hold people to account and sit in board meetings and make sure that what people say is going to get done either gets done or gets modified. And it's a role that, as the business owner, it feels like you should be doing that all the time, but it's really hard to do that because you've got another million things pulling you in different directions.
Yeah, exactly. I think also for me, my NED, so I was speaking to a really successful agency owner, and my God, I think he started his agency and like 2 years later they were at 3 million. So I was like, how have you done it? And he said, well, it's just my networks. Like, I'm older, I've got these really good existing networks. And so he said, why don't you talk to someone with a good network who has not got their own business that they need it for? And then, you can help each other out, because he can monetize his network, I guess, and you can get really good, useful introductions. So
yeah,
that's what I've actually hired an NED for. And my mentor actually is the one that keeps me accountable. And
oh right, so it's a good way of doing it.
yeah, exactly. I think that's the thing. Everybody probably has different labels for, like coach, mentor, consultant,
Yeah.
NED. They're all kind of, and it's just, the role that works for your business, I guess, at that time.
Absolutely. And it has to work for you as much as it has to work for the business, because you have to, I don't know about you, but there was a big watershed moment for me when I was running an agency that was, it was kind of like, I need to get out of my own way, and I can't get out of my own way without having support to help with that sort of stuff. And that's when you pick the things you need, and you sort of cherry pick which bits you think will help, and then you broaden that over time. And you've got someone now who's got the title of NED, but actually, in a sense, they're there to have that role, but also open a network up for you. And then you've got a mentor who's helping through lots of accountability based stuff, because you need that, and you've decided that that's what you need right there and then.
Yeah, exactly. And then they both give, really practical advice on how to grow the business and how to do different things as well. So I think, it's just about kind of building that support network around you, I guess, and however that looks for each business.
Exactly. Each business is totally different. And, if you've got businesses where, for example, if you had 150 staff instead of 150 freelancers, you would have a totally different approach to whether it was mentorship, coaching, NED, mastermind groups, things like that. It would be a totally different thing, because it has to fit what you're doing and the direction you're traveling every single time.
Yeah, exactly.
So your advice going back in time would be to get more people in to advise you and help you that you needed.
Yes. Yeah. And also, read books, go to webinars and things, and actually implement that knowledge as well.
Go on awesome podcasts, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah. But if you went back in time and older you, or now you, sorry, gave that advice to younger you, would younger you have listened to that? Or
I think so. Well, I guess it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think if I came back from the future, I'd probably recognize myself and think, yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess it depends on the delivery of the advice. But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think you have to take time to learn these things, and it's easy to think, oh, I wish, like, my head of content is amazing, and I always think I wish I'd hired her earlier. But actually, you have to just trust that this is the right time now, and there's no point in kind of looking back and having regrets. You just have to get on with the tools you have now.
Absolutely. So then I guess that kind of brings me on to a question around if there was something that you've done over the years that you kind of either wish you'd done differently, or something that you've learned, either not necessarily the hard way by a mistake, but you've learned and you thought, you know what, I'm going to follow this way, or I'm not going to do it like that, and that's kind of set you up for this success that you're having now.
I think I would have just hired earlier. I think that was my biggest mistake, is not hiring as soon as I possibly could. I think that's the most important thing, because otherwise you're prospecting, and then you've got all these leads coming in, then you're delivering, and then you're prospecting again, and you've never got time to kind of catch up.
Right. Yeah. So actually hiring people who are capable, as it were, to of delivering on the growth that you're bringing in, versus keeping on doing it all. I think there's a point in time when you suddenly just realize, oh my God, if I want to sell more, because my job is to sell and make money for the business. But if I take this one more client on, I think I might go mad. I think I'm gonna run out of time. I can't work Monday to Sunday every single day of the week. I just can't do that. And that, so hiring sooner would be something. So you kind of, I think at a certain point in time, every agency owner has had that sort of moment in time where you've kind of gone, I can't take any more work on unless I have someone in. But if I have someone in, I'm having to spend. And if I spend, what if the whole thing goes under? Oh my God, I'm really scared. I better just hire anyway, because it's going to go under if I fall apart. there's all these things going on around you, and
exactly.
So hiring sooner is a big one, and I think in a way that's great now from your perspective, because you've got that perspective, and you're also hiring when you need it. But I don't know if you're hiring at the minute, but the jobs market in digital marketing is just ridiculous at the moment in terms of trying to find the right people, whilst also trying to sort of balance against what you need as a business. And there's just so many people out there hiring for, if you look on jobs boards and things, the exact same roles, hundreds and hundreds of the exact same roles, just in London or in another, out around the country. How do you typically sort of decide whether someone's the right fit for you?
So I think, it's interesting you say that. We have not had a problem with hiring people. I haven't been hiring an account manager or anything, just copywriters. So I think maybe it's just a different market. But I think having a job ad that's friendly and stands out, having something about your business that stands out, like, for example, we are actually fully flexible. So if you want to work at 2 a.m, you can work at 2 a.m, for example. That kind of thing has really helped us find people. And I actually did a post today that, women will only apply for a job generally if they fit 100% of the skills needed, whereas men, it's about 60%. They'll just go for it. So just having the core skills that you need on that job spec, and then maybe saying this is something you'll learn later if you want to add something else in as well. I think that's very helpful, because it opens up to a much more diverse range of candidates, which is very good. But generally, I guess what I look for is, at the moment, I obviously need someone who's a brilliant writer, but that's not kind of all we need. We also need someone who kind of fits in with the team. So our 3 kind of core values are, 1, kindness. I think it sounds a bit trite, but I think I've heard so many stories from applicants that, that they're going into work and they don't want to go in because there's a kind of cliquey atmosphere, and I don't want that in our team. The second one is initiative. I am not the most organized person in the world, and I really don't want to be involved in what people are doing day to day. I want to help them and train them, and I want them to come to me if they have a problem, but I don't want to be checking in on them all the time, and I don't want to have to answer the same question lots of times. So initiative's really important, and then efficiency as well. I think there's so many writers that don't understand the commercial element of writing, and I think that we try to help people understand that a bit more. Clients are paying us to do this work, and yes, it could be the greatest masterpiece if we spent a month doing it, but that's not in the client's budget. So
and I guess if you're fully flexible, does that work in the sense that you need these things done by Wednesday, and if you get them done in an hour, that's fine, or if you get them done by Wednesday, that's fine, and they could just work as and when? Is that what you mean?
I think in-house it's more difficult, because you are paying people, because your only measure of productivity is time. So if something's taking the team an hour and we've charged the client sort of something that we would charge, that the amount we would charge for something that takes a day, for example, then we're overcharging the client, and I don't want that. So they do need to spend the amount of time that we need, but it's just when they work that time is fine, is up to them.
That's great. I didn't know that that bit of information about how men and women sort of buy a job role, as it were, and that's really interesting to me. Obviously, it's not a perspective I would necessarily have had for obvious reasons, but it's also a perspective that I think is quite important for other agency owner leaders to have, especially men, because I think there's still a bit of a gap there in terms of the number of men and women in agency roles, and things like that might make a big difference in just at the early stages, because if that does follow across other areas of the industry and things like that, there's lots and lots of very talented women in digital marketing who potentially aren't applying for roles because they are worried they're not going to meet the aims of the role, or won't necessarily be 100% on the day, whereas it sounds like, it not in a contrite way, men kind of sign up and wing it a little bit more, which from my perspective, I would have probably just signed up and tried to wing it, so that makes a lot of sense. But I wonder whether that sort of thing is something that a lot of agency leaders ought to be aware of a bit more, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. And it's very frustrating, isn't it, in marketing? Because when you first start and join the industry, you're with a lot of other women. And then by the time you get to an agency owner, you're few and far between.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I suspect, like most things, an equilibrium of some sort will be reached. But who's to tell? I do think that things like that that you said about the from a statistical point of view make an awful lot of sense, and having awareness of these things will probably make a big difference. And I think there's something to be said for fundamentally, in a sense, men and women think differently in many senses, and that's where maybe a male agency leader writes a job spec and doesn't necessarily consider anything other than it needs to have these things, and here's the total rational block of text that it needs to have, and doesn't consider there's a human being that needs to read this, and they need to actually want to buy into applying for this job.
Yeah, and if you've never experienced that yourself, kind of, not applying because you think there's too many skills you need, then why would you think that other people don't think like you? It's just important to read around and learn about these things.
Yeah, no, that's great information. I'm gonna remember that one. So if there's an aspiring agency leader listening to the podcast at the minute, or someone who's just literally started running their agency, is there one piece of advice that you would give them that you think would really be helpful?
I think it's all about people. It's not about you. It's about the people you have around you. So build yourself a board of advisors, even if you can't afford to pay anyone right now. Tell them you'll look after them when you do well, or find trusted friends and family who you are good at. You can bounce ideas off. The same with hiring. You need to just hire as soon as you can. And then I guess the other side of people is that it's about your mindset as well. So like, you're the only person that can make or break this. And it's very easy to lose momentum. So you need to work out what works best for you.
That's an interesting, it's almost like a cognitive dissonance there. It's not all about you because of the people you need, but it is entirely about you, because if you don't do it right, those people will be looking for other jobs elsewhere. So there's a balance between the two, but you have to split your mind into two places, one being the leader and allowing people to be themselves, and the other one continuing to be the leader and making decisions which will impact those people.
Exactly.
So yeah, absolutely. I think agencies are people businesses. They fundamentally work how all businesses work. Money goes in, clients go in, money comes out, things go out. But realistically, it's the people that make an agency great. And I think if you get the right hiring process, and from the sounds of your values and things, it means that it makes it a lot easier in the larger scale of things to have the right people. And that kind of, I think I haven't heard anyone else being fully flexible. So that's a decent sort of USP in terms of wanting to work for an agency like that, where you can live in the way that you choose whilst also doing great work for good people. It's really important.
Yeah. I think the other thing to remember as an agency owner is that essentially you can boil everything down to 4 jobs, which is find great clients, keep them, find great people, keep them. Those are basically your 4 jobs. So I think if you can just try and work on those a little bit every day, that's a good way to start.
Absolutely. I mean, sorry to say that your original piece of advice was terrible, but this was the best bit. You have 4 jobs. That's absolutely, yeah. And if all of the little bits that filter through are either one of those 4 jobs or a product of those 4 jobs being done well.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent advice to end the episode on. Thank you very much for joining us, Charlie. That's been fantastic to talk to you.
Thank you. That was brilliant.
And in our next podcast, we'll have a different agency leader talking about their journey and the things they've learned along the way. So thanks very much for listening, and speak to you soon.